Hey everybody, and welcome back to this next episode of Cities Skylines. As always, my name is Nulio and I have a nice cup of freshly brewed coffee here to get me going for this latest episode of Cities Skylines. So today we're doing a nice big sort of stadium setup area. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. There's a lot of detailing involved. So just going to jump straight into the time lapse and have a look at how this all came together. So the first thing I was looking at doing was getting the general footprint set up. So what I had to do here was kind of push out the land a little bit because the stadium was a little bigger than I remembered. If I remember correctly, the stadium's actually based on one in Melbourne, if I remember correctly from what the workshop said, although it does have what looks to be like a gridiron setup, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's from Melbourne. As well as that, we also kind of put like a minor stadium, because I was looking on Google Maps and a lot of major stadium areas, or the one that I was looking at, they kind of have like these sort of sub little stadiums for sort of smaller events and sort of training grounds and stuff like that. So you've got your sort of main stadium, and then you've got sort of these other smaller stadiums that you use for smaller events that maybe don't sort of yield as much sort of, I guess, profit as well. Now the good thing about this stadium that I was using is it's got like it's kind of like a base model, and so it's got these sort of areas here that you can see that kind of just drop off, which I thought was a really good opportunity to sort of customize the stadium a little bit more than a normal building asset. And the other thing I use as well, which is probably one of the most versatile assets for this build that I've got, is these sort of big concrete cubes. Now I used these before in the rail yard episode, just for some loading docks, but in this episode they come in so handy because I'm able to actually extend this stadium, extend the footprint, and sort of make it a little bit more interesting with these concrete cubes I've got. So you can see here I'm sort of making a slightly grander entrance or stairs up to the main gates than just sort of having stairs that go straight off the stadium. So that was really cool to be able to use that, and then obviously with like prop snapping we can sort of put props on top of these things, so we can put like seats and lights and stuff like that. You can't put trees on top of them obviously because trees don't work with prop snapping, but I do have some tricks here and there that I'll discuss with you guys as I'm doing them, which I was able to sort of cheat the system a little bit into making it look like there were trees that were and bushes raised above the actual ground as well. So you might be able to sort of figure out how I did that as well, but I will go through that as well. So like I said, we're just kind of making the front entrance here using these assets to make these staircases, making heavy use of the move it tool to sort of copy and paste them around. Now here what I'm doing is this is what we made literally just before, is using sort of bigger trees to make the bushes. So basically you have the big bush tree or whatever, and basically because it was clipped inside the cube, you only see the top canopies of the trees coming out. So what that made it look like was like these sort of, it looked like these bushes were actually on top of these raised areas as well, just by clipping the tree through. And with different sized trees I was able to get like bushes and then sort of things that kind of look like slightly smaller trees, which really make this look a lot better than if I wasn't able to put trees anywhere. So that was really good to use as well. And having different height trees really made that a lot easier to sort of implement as well. And then here we're just getting in the rail. I wanted to get the rail in first before I did anything, so I didn't have to add it in as an afterthought, because when you sort of add these things in as afterthoughts, it does make the whole thing a lot messy to sort of figure out and stuff like that. I had a little bit of trouble with this, just trying to figure out where things are going to go, but in the end I was able to sort of figure out a solution that did work quite well. It took me one or two tries to get it, but you only see the last attempt that I made as well, because I needed to take in consideration that this is going to be the main entrance for the stadium, but also that it's not just going to be this off-ramp, but there's obviously going to be roads coming in from different areas from the city, as opposed to just this one sort of highway or main road as well. So I had to keep that in mind to do this, but all in all, it turned out pretty well. It's kind of hard to say what the traffic will be like because it's still, there isn't much development around this area, but I'm trying to sort of think ahead of that so that when traffic does start to build and when it does start to develop up this area in later episodes, we're not going to have sort of traffic issues or anything like that as well. So here is just a matter of sort of fine-tuning this entranceway, just sort of getting all the ramps at the right heights, making sure that it wasn't too much of a step down kind of effect that happens in Cities Skylines, and trying to make these ramps as smooth as possible when it came to doing this as well. And then trying to get in these intersections, trying to make some slip lanes as well. With the traffic manager present edition, it's really, these are sort of more viable because you can make it so that cars don't stop when they're waiting for traffic to clear within the intersection, so you can just kind of keep going through. Because in a base game, making a slip lane like this wouldn't be terribly viable, even from like a creative standpoint of view. It would just create a lot of traffic mayhem to sort of have that in. But with the traffic manager, it's a lot easier to make these really nice intersections with nice slip lanes, much more functional than they would have been in the base game as well. And then just trying to sort of neaten up these big gaps that it makes by sort of putting in some markings and sort of do not cross markings or whatever they're called. I'm not sure what they're called, but just so that cars don't sort of go through there, and then using the lane changer to make sure that that's an actual rule in the system, so that we don't have cars kind of chucking U-turns and turning in ways that we don't really want them to as well. And then I was just kind of adding in some extra details, sort of putting in these nice little stop lines for the traffic lights, which I haven't really done very often, so it's a bit inconsistent, but I want to start doing it because it does make these intersections look really nice. And I've seen a lot of YouTubers pay a lot of attention to intersections, and it does make it look really nice and a lot more realistic in the grand scheme of things as well. So I tried to really focus on line markings a lot in this episode, especially in the intersections and with some of the sort of drop-off areas for people for the stadium. So hopefully that will look good. Now here was a bit of I guess fakery. I'm sort of, obviously these paths aren't going to be, or they can be usable, I suppose. I just need to make them drop to the ground, but for now they just kind of had them finishing in the air and then sort of dropping it below the cube so that the actual railing would sort of go into the ground and not make it look like it wasn't completely inaccessible. Because if you just kind of stopped the path at the same height, you had this sort of railing that would go around, and so it would look like people wouldn't be able to sort of get in. So I just kind of tried to dip it underneath, clip it in there, and sort of make it look like it can be accessible. And I think later on I'll put paths going actually all the way to the ground so people can actually use it. Although now that I think about it, that could look a little strange when you have people walking through the floor. So yeah, I might. We'll see how that goes. I may not actually do that in the long run, but we'll see. Because it would still be nice to have people using those ramps as well to make it look like it is an active space and people are sort of going to the stadium and things like that. And then again, here you can see that I'm doing what I was doing before and just really trying to extend the footprint of this stadium and trying to make it look a lot nicer, a lot better than just sort of the base model. Not that the base model isn't fantastic already, it's a really interesting one with lots of different entrances, which made it really good to sort of really just go to town with this and really putting lots of different entrance types and putting different props in and different planters in. So it's really cool to have this asset to use for a stadium asset as well. So I was really happy with that. Again, just putting in more of these trees again, just kind of clipping smaller trees to look like little bushes in sort of the higher up areas as well, which works out really nice too. So, and then coming on to this, just sort of getting the grass texture sorted out and just putting in the manicured grass, because I think the sort of normal grass texture wouldn't really work in this kind of area because it's more of it's a very, manicured area. Yeah, they're going to keep these grounds pretty presentable, so obviously it's going to look a lot nicer than just kind of default sort of grass that you would have generally in the city as well. And then again, putting some of these planters above the ground just to kind of make a nice little sort of tiered effect as well, similar to what we've done with the staircase as well. So that was really cool. So here's where we get started on one of the more extended places I've done using these cubes that I made, just sort of expanding the footprint of this building, making these nice sort of entrances that people will be using to get into the stadium. And you can see there I've got these the sides of these staircases. I've actually used is the actual these road pillars for like bridges and stuff. But if you sink them into the ground, they actually look more like the sort of side arms of staircase. And I thought they worked really well because they've actually got like a nice little sort of chafed step like design to them. So as far as that goes, they look really nice to use for that design, just to make those stairs a little bit more interesting and sort of separated and spread the stairs out as well. It'd be great if I could get people to be walking up and down the stairs, because I think that'll look really cool with that in comparison. But it also allows me to put stuff on it and things like that. And again, this is kind of why I like the plain asset for this stadium, is that it gives me a lot of freedom to put these other sort of objects and assets on there and kind of customize a lot better how this stadium's going to look and the overall sort of theme and where things are as well. So like adding these sort of raised platform areas with like the banners and the steps, and then obviously going back and using that technique with the trees and bushes to sort of start adding in sort of the impression of raised planters and bushes and stuff like that. So that was really cool to have. I feel like I picked a really good asset for this build, and I might even link it in the workshop if people want to have a look at it as well, because I actually really enjoyed using this asset. It's a little low poly in some areas, but you really don't notice unless you get really up close to that asset, which you really, obviously in Cities Skylines, it's not a huge thing, a huge issue, so you don't need to really worry about it as well. And then coming on to just doing a bit of stuff, getting the drop-off area ready. So you can see I added just before a bit of a different texture, just to try and change things up a little bit, make it sort of kind of like a boundary entrance area. So when you sort of walk across this area of with the decals, you sort of know that you're entering the official stadium grounds as well. So I'll be doing that a bit here with like sort of more of a side entrance, just sort of adding some nice planters to sort of break up the monotony of just pure concrete for the different entrances on different sides as well. So I think in total we've got about 4 different entrances, including the main one that we use. So I'm sort of going around and detailing all those spots and trying to break up that concrete as much as I can with planters and trees and even different textures as well. So and I really kind of like doing this, just sort of having this kind of separate area, but also this kind of sort of signifies the kind of drop-off area. So you can see that this goes all the way along this small road, which is actually going to be part of like a busway or like a bus drop-off area. And then further to the right, we've actually got like a proper drop-off area, which I'll actually start detailing later on, putting in like sort of the different bays that people can sort of drop friends and family off at the game and stuff like that as well, if they're not, again, just adding some nice like sort of concrete bollards to stop cars from accidentally going up onto the sidewalk, as you would normally do in a sort of stadium. But they also kind of act as places for people to sit, because there'll be some benches, but sometimes there's so many people, you sort of use those pillars to sit down and take a feet off. So this part was really cool because it allowed me to make use of a really awesome new, it's like a new road type, but it actually works as like a car park. So it's got like all these lanes, but they're wide enough so they can fit, as you can see, these car park assets that come with these roads. And it just, like, this is not so much a game changer, but it saves, like, anyone who does detailing in these car parks will know that they take a while, because before you had to put dedicated an area, put down like the asphalt decals, and then put the parking on top of that. And that took a while because you only had these sort of 4x4 meter decals to work with, whereas this one, it acts like a whole road. So you just put it all down in one go, and then you stick on the parking decals, which are also an asset made up of all these parking decals, so you can cover a very large space really quickly, and it just saves so much time when it comes to car parks, because before they would take a lot of time to detail as well. And the good thing is that other decals like line markings still work on these, so you can still make your own custom markers and arrows and sort of lanes that you want the traffic to use as well. So it's really versatile and just makes that aspect so much easier to implement, which is really cool. Now here's another part that I really liked. Again, just making use of the cubes, because they're just such, for this particular project, they proved to be just incredibly versatile. But basically I was making like kind of like a sort of like a picnic area for people, because obviously you wouldn't just always come here for a game. I'd imagine that it could also kind of act as like a little park or a walking area. So in a few, not too far off, I actually add kind of like a barbecue area that's kind of raised off the ground a little bit, just to give people a bit nicer view of the city, and just to add some different elevations to this build. But it works out to be a really nice little place, being able to add this this raised area with sort of table coverings and tables and sort of like walls as well, to stop people falling off the end. But it's also nice to be able to sort of make it match up with the little curb that I put there, and then the wall of that planter as well. So I just kind of called out for that. Again, being able to use those stereo assets and sort of just detail this up quite nicely, just to add some more detail to this waterfront, which was really cool to do. And so here we're coming up to the drop-off bay that I was talking about before. So it's pretty fun to do, just sort of add these, again, just kind of a good excuse to play with some line markings, because it's something that I find quite enjoyable. But basically we're just making this this last little drop-off area for people, adding in like the different bays, adding in a crosswalk so people can sort of get across to the other side. And that was, I mean, that's all there is really to it, but it was still a lot of fun to do, to add in these different bays as well. Had to play around with the lanes to sort of make sure that people weren't driving across the bays. Can't really make people sort of use it per se, so I might sort of maybe add some prop cars and stuff like that. But it's just a matter of adding these sort of mergers and things like that for the drop-off areas. And you can see here that on the right side, it was a little off, so I actually had to come back and sort of fix that up, because I didn't quite get the spacing right at the very end. It started off pretty good at the start, and then sort of as I got further along to the right, I sort of accidentally just kind of went a little bit too far out on the other lane as well. So you can see here I'm just coming back and fixing that up. Just a little minor detail here, and then that obviously, as a finishing touch, just adding in those little speed signs on the ground there, and I think that really sort of finishes off that area quite nicely. Here I decided to put like a no parking area, because I figured that having a kind of this sort of curve on a drop-off area probably wouldn't work terribly well. I think it would kind of be a little bit awkward, but also kind of dangerous having it right next to a pedestrian crossing, because if someone was about to pull out not really paying attention, they wouldn't have too much time to see someone crossing the road. So I figured it'd be better to have just a no-go area in terms of sort of safety and with pedestrians and things like that. Now here was probably another one of my really favourite parts of this build. Was doing kind of like, and I do like doing this a lot, but doing like a backlot sort of loading area. Because obviously, even though it is a stadium, you're still going to have supplies like merchandise and food and drink if there's a cafe nearby that still needs or demands some sort of logistical transportation for this area as well. And maybe even office supplies if there's offices in there as well. So I sort of went and did that. And again, I sort of found that these new sort of car park roads came in really handy for, again, making a large, because you can get some really wide roads with this new parking road, whatever you call it. It really helps to make sort of asphalt loading zone areas really quickly without having to use the asphalt decal. But the other great thing is that you can see there's like scuffs and marks and sort of road wear, which you used to have to do manually when you're using the asphalt mod. And what's good about that is not only is it a lot quicker, but it also saves you having to use more decals. Admittedly, it's not by much because you maybe use a couple of decals for the texturing, but I think as far as creative cities go, wherever you can save memory and you can save assets is a good thing. So I think this is going to make things a lot easier and a lot more resourceful when it comes to the load on the city and sort of how many textures and assets that you'll be using as well. But again, it was wide enough to be able to fit like a nice little loading zone area. Again, using those cube to make like the sort of like the platform that the trailers are at height, so that they basically just open the door and you can sort of roll in a forklift to pick up the stuff, or people can just sort of use a like a handheld wheelie thing, whatever they're called, to get the supplies off and off. And I did use one or two details here, but for the tire trucks, but you really don't have to use nearly as much as you would normally do previously as well. So that was really cool to do. And then I'm sort of adding like a little, kind of like a fake car park entrance. So this doesn't really go anywhere, and I add two of them in, but just to kind of give off the impression that there's more car parking underground, like maybe for staff car parking as well. And the good thing is putting a road there, you're gonna see cars using that to do U-turns, and just kind of makes it look like it's actually being used as well, which is always a cool thing to try and do in cities, is making your sort of non-functional elements look like they are actually functional, which is always something fun to try and do, to sort of do a bit of trickery to do that as well. So I sort of enjoyed doing that. And then here I'm just sort of adding in some lane markings just to try and give a bit more structure to the car parks, because they are just an open area. So I'm trying to sort of add in these dividers so that I can sort of figure out where the lanes are going to be, and then start adding in different lane markings and things like that. So you'll see that like when we go into the live portion, I'll sort of have a quick fly around to show you the end result of those markings. And then here, doing the same thing as before, just sort of adding in this sort of fake car park entrance that cars can use as well. And maybe I might even connect this one up with the other one, just so that cars go in and out both sides and they don't immediately turn around. But here, this is kind of like a minor detail, but I actually kind of really liked it, was adding this kind of sloping walls to the entrance of the car park. Like, it's a very minor detail, but for me it just kind of really just made that area a bit more interesting, which is really cool to do. And then from here on in, it's just kind of adding in all the smaller details. I'm just sort of like, there's a lot of these entrance areas which are very much a rinse and repeat, but you can still change up here and there, but it's mostly just adding in the stairs, the lights, adding in the planters, and then putting in the different trees and bushes to sort of fill out that area. And then again, adding in some more details to these sort of more plain areas, which is really cool because it just gives me so much more freedom to play around with. And you can see on the left there, actually, I didn't show this on camera, but I actually put like these barriers to kind of make the sort of queuing areas on each side where people would sort of line up and queue for their tickets, or if they've got prepaid tickets, just kind of like follow people in and walk straight to their seat. So that's going to do it for the time lapse now. So we're just going to move into the live version and do some more detailing on a slightly different area of the stadium. Alrighty, everybody. So getting on to the live part, the area that I want to work on is just kind of this last little area here. This kind of secondary stadium that we've got here. So the first thing I want to do is play around with this little car park area here. I kind of want to make like a little, kind of like a slip lane parking area if I can. So I'm gonna use this and just see how this goes. I'm not sure if this will work or not. So let's find out. So I'm just gonna go from here to there and see how we go. See if this is a potentially working thing. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. The cars are kind of freaking out here. If I can move this back, can I do something like this? You know what I should do? Is freaking just move this. That'd be just way easier than like. Never mind. That's. Yep, I figured it out. I could have just done that the whole time and it would have saved me a lot of trouble. So that went a little better than I thought. Sorry, no. It went worse than I thought, but it wasn't too hard to fix. So at least that sort of works in the way that I sort of intended it to. But I do want to put like a bigger car park, sort of one of these over here as well. I'm not sure how big I want to do it though. I'm thinking just this double one and kind of make it come out from here to sort of about there. And then just plop down these car parks, obviously. Cool. Okay, so we got that. So I do need to fix up this entranceway. So what I'll use, I'll actually use one of these. This is what I did off camera when I was trying to sort out like how the cars would move through here, and I sort of figured out something which works pretty well. I haven't actually seen any cars use these parks yet, which is weird. But what I'm just going to do is grab, I need the props and the decals. I'm pretty much just going to grab all of that, paste down what we've got so far, and we'll deal with those concrete things once we place this. So let's make sure this is lined up fairly nicely. I think that's good. I think that's the right orientation, and I'm just going to put that there. And I need to move these across a bit more. Let's just move this to. That's perfect. And I just need to. So what I'll do is I'll sort out these lanes, copy these two things, and then we'll move on to something else. Alrighty, so I've just done up some of this area here, and what I've also do is I've sort of prepared this area because I'm going to make it like a slightly lowered, kind of like a barbecue area. We're going to have some grass here. We're going to have a bit of a walkway down here, just so there's like another place for people to go. So let's get started on that one. I'm going to go to here and grab my path tool here. I've already put a path here, so I'm just going to find where it connects. There. And we're going to start making this path down towards our sort of barbecue area. So I'm just going to get this up to the right height, so about there. Let's go. Let's go to about there. We can always change this later as well, but I'm just trying to make this work. And then we'll bring this one down to here. But that seems to work pretty well. And what you do is use some walls to fix that up. There we are. So that's just going to neaten that up a little bit more. And I might even put some planters here to try and hide that up, I think. So let's grab some of those. And I'll just add some trees and bushes along here. Just add a couple of these ones. One there. Let's maybe add some. Maybe not those. Maybe that's too big. Maybe the shady bush is probably going to be what we're after. So let's put one there. Maybe one of these. So let's grab too big. I think that one could work. And then we'll just kind of stick one there. There we go. I think I quite like how that's going to turn out. And we probably even do the same here as well. But now what I want to do is just kind of make the grass area. So let's just quickly do that now. I'll use some dirt. I'll make it go all the way along here, like so. And then we're going to put some grass decals over this as well, which will make it look really good. Now we can sort of start adding some more like props. So let's. Not sure where to put these. Maybe. Oops. We could have some along here. And then maybe some near closer to the grass. Let's put that one there. And we'll put about maybe 3. Like so. Okay, and then what I might also do, just add a bit of a garden bed here that kind of sort of comes out to here, and just so I can sort of add some more trees and stuff like that, a little bit more natural than having the planters. So let's grab, I want to grab one of the big bushes actually, so let's grab this one here is what I want. So I'm going to stick this one there, and just maybe a couple of small pines, and then maybe some of these smaller bushes just like here. Like that. Nothing too crazy. Just neaten off this edge here. Nice. And then I just need to probably add some benches around the place. And then we need some lights. So I might grab these nice little lanterns here. Let's go from here and just move out the spacing a bit more. Let's put these around here. Oops, I didn't want that one. Just like that. Perfect. Alright, so the last little thing that I want to do before we finish is just do a little bit more fine tuning of this area. I'm kind of finish off this walkway that I sort of started here. Continuing on to here and just kind of neaten up this area. So the first thing I want to do is I'm actually going to make a small little wall around this car park. So I'm just going to start from here. And I'm going to bring this all the way to just about to here. And we're going to leave a break so that we can get through from here. And then I'm going to start another wall from just here, kind of lining up with the edge of that street. So probably from here, I'm going to bring it to this part here, and then that's just going to go across to I'm going to put it over here so I can move it. So let's just quickly move that into position now. So just to about there, and then I'm going to bring it down to that level. Cool. And then I'm going to probably grab some of these pot plants here. So let's just grab that one and that one. I can kind of continue this theme across to here. So let's. Nice. What I might also do is just, I'm going to move these trees a bit more center to this area. So I'm just going to bring them across to about there is perfect. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. What I'll probably do is I'll go and neaten up some areas and finish off some other areas that would just take too long for this episode to do. And as always, you'll see some cinematics of the finished product. But anyway, thanks for watching this episode of Cities Skylines. My name is Nulio, and I'll see you all next time. See ya.